Hello, out into the ether where there probably isn't anybody because it's 3 in the morning and what the heck am I doing here? There's a band from the probably only 90s kids will have any recollection of called Fury in the Slaughterhouse. And they have a song called Radio Orchid. It's kind of a I don't know, narrative ballad or something, I guess. And the simple part of it goes that there was an old lady and her husband passed away and she didn't have any kids, I guess, and she was lonely, or the kids moved out. I forget which one it was. And she used the inheritance, the life insurance, whatever that she got from her husband's death in order to buy a tiny little know nothing radio station. And in order to try to assuage her loneliness and her disconnectedness from people, she would just go on this radio station that she had bought with her husband's legacy and just talk to people and just make connections that way. This is before the internet, before social media, the basis of this song. And that notion always kind of stuck with me. And I think about it once in a while when I'm doing YouTube stuff, because isn't that what a lot of us are doing with this whole thing? Isn't that what radio show hosts did anyway? You know, you're trying to reach out, make a connection with other people, trying to, sort of babble out into the ether, hoping that maybe somehow, somewhere, somebody gives a rip. Good morning, Noah Asensio, Matt Barnes, the original Shroom Reject. Good morning. Good early morning. I didn't expect anybody to be here. I'm just stuck once again between a noisy and a smelly place with my neighbors. The people above, for God knows whatever reason, are stomping around in the middle of the night, crack of dawn, and the people below are both noisy and are cooking something, and whatever they're cooking in some mild way has invaded my space. And so consequently, I'm sitting there, laying there trying to sleep, and I just can't. And so here we are. I'm awake and moving around about an hour earlier than I usually would on a weekday. And without anything more productive to do, at least until 12 hours from now, when I'll be interviewing Dave's Lemonade. Why not? Come on here, see what's going on in the world, and vent a little bit and try to wake my brain up for the rest of the day. And Kyler. Is it Kyler or is it Killer? You know, because part of me wants to say Killer, but that has different connotations. You know, it could be, like Great Balls of Fire, that kind of the Killers out there kind of thing, or Kyler. Of course, Kyler sounds like, I don't know. I want to make any judgments. You tell me, which is it, Killer or Kyler? Reject says, I forget. I can do this. I have the magic. I'm getting ready for bed. Sorry, your neighbor's not letting you sleep. Well, c'est la vie. You know, I've been living in the same spot for so long now, but I tell you, these last few months in particular, I've been like, man, maybe I should try to move. Maybe I should try to find a new place, and not another apartment, but try to actually maybe rent a house or get something. I don't know. One of our associated audience members, let's say, I won't, in case it's private, I'm not going to say names or anything, is in the process of effectively buying their first house. It's nothing fancy, but it's a house, and it's their own space. And I see this story and I'm like, man, I wish I could do that, but man, home prices, even rental prices. I'm looking at what it would cost just to rent a house that is more or less in comparable size, right? Maybe obviously a little bit bigger than what I'm living in now. And it's like, okay, if I want to fork over the entirety of my pay in a month, every month, just to rent with nothing else, sure, I can live in a house that's, got either no water or no food or God knows what else. It's just it's insane. And I keep thinking, since I can work remotely now, hey, you can live anywhere. You could you could move next door with Satsu over in Ohio or something, and I'm like, yeah, but I got it's just yeah. Anyway, why bother? Why dwell on those things right now? We have more important things to talk about, like Chinese hot air balloons. Oh, what a world. What a world. What a world. I saw bits and pieces about this over the course of yesterday. And it's fascinating. It really is. I mean, we, and people rightly said, it's like we spend godzillion billion dollars per year on national defense and Air Force and everything else. And somehow a giant weather balloon makes its way all the way from China to Montana before anybody really notices it. And we can't shoot it down. No, it's a really big balloon. It could hit a house or something. And I'm not saying shoot it down and risk hurting people or something. At the same time, it's kind of like, what do we do? Defeated by balloon. And of course, the conspiracy theories are, this is a precursor to some kind of EMP thing or whatever. And maybe, I mean, what if it was? Well, we wouldn't be doing anything to stop it. And by the time we knew there was a threat, it'd be too late. Something would have gone wrong, right? Okay. Well, here we are. Emperor W.R. Costin. And let's see. I'm renting a house. However, I live in a smallish town where the cost of living is low. Well, that's the thing. Unfortunately, I don't live in a based on what I make. Everything that could be available around me is ridiculously out of bounds of rationale for trying to afford. Like if I had a wife and she had her own job. I mean, if I was a 2-income household, I could probably swing it, or we could probably swing it. But, I'm still single guy. Yeah, the math just doesn't make sense. The math just doesn't make sense. If I want to have my own space but live like a caveman, I could do it. But I don't want to do that. So until something changes drastically, or I find some other option, or I just say, hell with it, I'm going to move to Podunk, Iowa or something and remote into work, and that'll be good. But I never feel like things are so stable that I'm not going to be upended. Like if my remote job here goes sideways, then I have to try to find a job in Iowa. I'm just hypothetically. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. I'm such a suburban kid. I don't know what to do. Anyway, and no knocking on Iowa. I'm sure Iowa's great. I've just picked it randomly. Anyway, so Emperor W.R. Costin, single guys are evil. I should know. Sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. I'm not evil. I'm nice. I'm nice and considerate and studious and well spoken, and also Chinese balloons. Let's get the latest on Chinese balloons. Why not? Because I'm awake and this is what's going on in the world apparently. Here's what we know about the suspected Chinese spy balloon. A suspected Chinese surveillance balloon in the skies over the continental United States has sparked national security concerns, adding to already tense diplomatic relations. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has responded by postponing his highly anticipated trip. Oh, I know, I was excited. Oh man, I was, you can pay for the seat, but you only need the edge. And that's where I was at with Anthony Blinken's trip to China. Saying Friday that the high-altitude balloon entering U.S. airspace had, quote, created the conditions that undermined the purpose of the trip, unquote. Blinken dubbed it an irresponsible act. China, meanwhile, denies the balloon is involved in any kind of espionage, claiming it is a, quote, civilian airship used for research, mainly meteorological purposes, unquote, that has been blown off course. Okay. I wonder if the steampunk community is getting all excited about, airships floating over and things. I don't know. Here's what we know so far, where it's headed. The balloon could exit the east coast of the United States as early as Saturday morning, based off of a NOAA weather model. That's probably when they'd want to shoot it down once it's over like water. But just, Murphy's Law being what it is, it's like, okay, now the balloon has exited the continental United States. It's safe for us to shoot it down, and no civilians are in danger of the debris field that will result from this. And then they shoot it down, and it hits some guy's fishing boat. It's like, what? What did I do? Anyway. Let's see. 2 U.S. defense officials have told CNN that the balloon is expected to reach the East Coast and then pass out to sea in the southeast near the Carolinas. So it's had from all across the entire continental United States over God knows how many sensitive areas just kind of floating around. Hopefully it's not radioing anything back that Chinese spy satellites weren't already collecting. That's just so bizarre to me. It's like we know that everybody's spying on each other anyway with much more sophisticated things than balloons. So I guess it could be a spying balloon. Let's just say it is. My only question is, why bother? What is that balloon going to be doing that a low orbit satellite isn't already doing? It doesn't make any sense to me, unless there is, of course, some ulterior motive, which we don't know yet for sure. Just speculation. Let's see. U.S. officials had said previously, here, let me highlight so everybody knows where I'm at, had said previously that the flight path of the balloon first spotted over Montana on Thursday could potentially take it over a, quote, number of sensitive sites, and they were taking steps to, quote, protect against foreign intelligence collection. So there's that like aiming radio jammers at it or something. I'm guessing, trying to scramble its signals or something. The U.S. has not ruled shooting it down. U.S. President Joe Biden and national security team officials have discussed options, including shooting the balloon down, according to a senior administration official. Earlier, the military had advised against shooting down the balloon due to the risk of falling debris, but the situation could change as the balloon moves towards the East Coast. About the balloon, the substructure beneath the Chinese spy balloon, believed by officials to be the steering and surveillance apparatus, is roughly the length of 3 city buses. 3 city buses. I'm trying to think for a second. I'm trying to imagine a city bus for a second. Think about it. Three of them end to end. That's a lot of equipment. That's a lot of equipment there, and that's got to be a really big balloon. I don't know about the weight, but still, that's a lot of stuff there. Just for meteorological stuff. I don't know that my local news station has a setup as large as 3 city buses for their meteorology, but I don't know. China's response: China claims the balloon is a civilian research vessel that has been blown off course. A spokesperson for China's foreign ministry described the situation Saturday as an accident. It was, quote, entirely an unexpected situation caused by force majeure, the spokesperson said, referring to a legal term which means great force and out of their control. Second suspected spy balloon, because why have one when you can have 2? The Pentagon said Friday evening that another Chinese spy balloon had been spotted above Latin America. It is unclear exactly where the balloon is over the continent, but a U.S. official tells CNN it does not appear to be currently heading to the United States. Okay, so either just trying to be, and I'm no expert, but okay, so China releases at least 2 spy balloons. All right, which are somehow, I guess, advantageous as opposed to whatever, low orbit satellite spy stuff they've already had set up for decades now. Suddenly it's like, okay, well, let's release some balloons over 2 areas of the world that aren't China. So is China lying? Are these not civilian things that went off course? I don't know, but 2 balloons? I don't know. Is this a big deal? I don't know if it's a big deal. I'm not quite sure. My 3 a.m. brain doesn't know if this is a big deal. Cannibalistic Wizard. China is saying it's an accident is as believable as my parents said when they loved me. No, that's sad. Kyler, didn't the DoD come up with a missile just for such an occasion some years back? I'm sure we have something that could take that sucker down in about 10 seconds flat. But if 3 school buses falls on Grandma Moses's house, it's not going to be a good look for the U.S. military. So I kind of get it. But then what's the point of having an air defense for something that could be dangerous to national security if you're not going to make use of it? I suppose since they can't say it's a weapon, they're not willing to shoot it down. So, but again, if it's a spy balloon, I can't. I guess I would have to know. And trust me, if they blow that sucker up, they're going to collect every piece of debris they can get to analyze it. I guess I'd have to know, what is the balloon gathering that a satellite isn't? Right? What is the utility of this thing over there already in place surveillance apparatus? That'd be my only question. Of course, I can't know that. Maybe the government has a better idea, or they have some kind of notion. But yeah, if they blow that sucker up, every single piece of that thing will be gathered up and analyzed off an Area 51 or something. So yeah, there you go. That's the latest that at least CNN has. Keldrig, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds spy, and the dream that you dream to, why can't China try? Somewhere. No, I better not. I got morning voice. I don't have singing voice. Although I was singing Radio Orchid to myself before I started the stream. Let's see. City bus about 40 feet. Yeah, so about 120 feet, there's about worth of superstructure and or whatever is being held within that. That's I mean, it conceivably is a lot of stuff. Doing what? I don't know. Let's see. Biden is being constantly briefed. I'm sure he is. 3 city buses. Yeah. Okay. So this is all a summary of what we've already, or little bits and pieces of the summary. So yeah, we were going, apparently Antony Blinken was going to China for some reason. I guess, what was his trip for? Let me see if, I'll change over stories because I have that power. It's magic like that. Let's see. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has postponed his upcoming trip to China in response to the flying of Blinken, who was depart on Friday night for Beijing, said at the press conference Friday that the high altitude. What was the trip for? What was the trip for? Yeah, I know. Okay. What was okay? No, not going to tell us. Okay. The decision to postpone Blinken's trip was made after high-level conversations between Blinken, President Joe Biden, and other top national security officials, according to people familiar with the matter. This came up on Twitter the other day. I forget who it was, but somebody, maybe it was like the Columbia Journal Review or something. Some publication had done some kind of survey of how many times the phrase familiar with the matter or persons familiar or, variants like that were used. I think specifically either by CNN or Washington Post or something as a dodge to actually, crediting a source. And it was some ungodly number of times, right? Because anybody who was with us for Lords of the Night, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Familiar with the matter, persons familiar with the situation, etc. Like everybody's got to be kept anonymous, and we just have to take your word for it that whoever's talking knows what they're talking about. And I took the opportunity to plug my my not often now interview series, Familiar with the Matter, because I remember just made that joke on one of the episodes of Lords of the Night that one. I was like, I'm going to start a talk show called Familiar with the Matter. It's just too perfect of a phrase. Oh, I'm honestly surprised somebody else either didn't do it or didn't already steal that. But anyway, White House officials had viewed U.S.-China relations as improving in the weeks following Biden's meeting in November with President Xi Jinping. Really? Okay. Blinken's trip was to be the culmination of more robust talks between Washington and Beijing in the 2 months since the G20 summit in Bali, Indonesia. In the lead up to Blinken's trip, officials said it was possible that Biden and Xi could speak again at some point in the next several months. They can speak anytime they want. It's called Zoom. I mean, I guess it's more important because they're world leaders or something. But Biden has been sensitive to criticism from Republicans and others that he is too soft on China. Well, given the fact that he was like bragging about being on some airliner with Xi Jinping and going back and forth forever, and it was all a lie. Yeah. And while he agreed with Pentagon recommendations not to shoot down the balloon because it posed a threat to people on the ground, he did want to demonstrate some type of response. Okay. What was the response? Just watching it and waiting for it to go to the East Coast? So the response was not sending Blinken to China. Okay. Officials also believe the timing of the balloon could throw off Blinken's agenda in Beijing and did not necessarily want his visit to become solely about the incident. Why not? Why not? Why not? China would be in a weakened position, an embarrassed position. We could come across as gracious, not be condescending, be like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's get it off the table and move on. There's plenty of ways that this could have been leveraged in our favor, in my opinion. But instead, we call it all off and make it a bigger deal than it is. Or we could have used it to show them up a little bit and gain a little leverage diplomatically by being gracious about it. I mean, if we want, it's sort of like, it kind of reminds me of like, not to go too extreme here, but for those of you that may have some idea of history in regards to the Cuban Missile Crisis. So, not that I think this is the Cuban Missile Crisis, just go with me here for a second. There was a moment within that very, let's say, tense situation where Washington, D.C. was communicating with Moscow, and they received a teletype from conceivably Khrushchev that was very, let's say, I'm summarizing here because it's a very complicated situation, but very diplomatic. And it presented the possibility of some kind of drawdown of escalation, let's say, to drawdown of tensions. And then not too long thereafter, another teletype came in that Washington, D.C. believed was not Khrushchev talking, but was written by some hardline insiders. And at the time, D.C. didn't know if there was a coup taking place in Moscow. It was a very tense situation. So they had to decide what they were going to do to try to get themselves and, essentially the world out of a possible nuclear exchange. And they decided, we're going to ignore that second teletype and pretend that it never existed and just respond to the first one as though that is the offer on the table. They were going to leverage a situation that was more advantageous to them rather than go along with the events in progress, let's say. And some creative and diplomatic thinking here might have been, I think, better advised than just calling off the trip. I think Blinken should have gone on the trip. I think that they should have accepted, for the sake of PR, for the sake of diplomacy, China's assurance that this was an accident, that this was a civilian thing, and hold them to that. And proceed with the trip as though that were the case. So publicly speaking, it's saying, okay, no, accidents happen. We can't, we're not going to throw a wrench in everything because you guys had an accident. You had your own balloon boy incident. Okay. On the surface, all right, sort of taking their word for it, but just below the surface going like, you guys better not be messing around. You guys better not be messing around. I think this would have been one of those instances where you could have put on some pomp and circumstance and some sort of like, a PR wishful thinking, and it would have been better. But what do I know? I'm not a political diplomatic expert. Let's see. Kyler, your diplomatic solution will require the people in charge to be competent, scribe. Well, okay, here's the thing. And I asked this of the people currently in chat and people that may be listening to this in the future, who might know more about these kind of things than I do, because I'm just your armchair, real-time strategy, tactical video game expert on diplomacy. Would that sound like a reasonable idea? Is that something that's sort of like, you'd expect an actual diplomat a tact to take? Because I think you could have done something with that. I think you could have done something with that. Accept China's explanation in public, with, and you could frame it in a way that is accepting of their explanation, but also with a cautionary tone to it, but continue on with the trip and, not bring it up directly. But obviously that's going to be hanging over, because then China is in a weaker position politically, diplomatically, when you're going there, because now they're embarrassed. But you're being gracious. You're keeping on with things. You're keeping professional. You're doing what you intended to do. I know I'm not going to harp on this for much longer. I think backing off from the trip was the wrong decision. I don't think it's a fatal decision. I don't think it's necessarily catastrophic, but I think we would have been better served in taking advantage of the sort of political and public capital that this accident provided us. But what do I know? Blinken still intends to travel to China, quote, at the earliest opportunity when conditions allow. Dude, you can get on a plane and go right now. Nothing's preventing you. This wasn't preventing you. Blinken said at his press conference Friday that he would visit Beijing when conditions allow. Why did you say that twice in two different... Are you guys getting paid by the word here or something? Is it like the olden days where you get a penny a word? Okay. Earlier this week, the State Department summoned China's charge d'affaires in Washington, Zhu Zhishuan, quote, to deliver a very clear and stark message, unquote, regarding the discovery of the spy balloon, a second U.S. official told CNN. Just name the person. This isn't secret information. Why? A second U.S. Who? Just give the name, for crying out loud. Even in the most simple, innocuous, bald-faced facts situation, you guys cannot possibly give a name of who's talking. Just... That message was conveyed directly by Blinken and Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman, according to the senior State Department official. Jesus Christ. Just who was it? I'm going to be the owl from the Tootsie Roll commercials. Who? Just give a name. I would like to get to know our public servants, CNN. I would like to get to know. I'd like to recognize some names from time to time. What is the problem with giving a name? This isn't secret information. This isn't some kind of like, all the president's men meeting in a garage somewhere. It's just, why? The balloon was spotted over Montana, where 100 intercontinental ballistic missiles are buried in missile silos at Malmstrom Air Force Base. Well, it had to go over a whole bunch of other places before it got to Montana. I mean, unless it was like so high up in the atmosphere and it just suddenly decided to lower itself down over Montana. Maybe. I don't know. But, I mean, it went over some other places first, right? It didn't just, manifest itself into existence right over Montana. Or did it? Dun, dun, dun. USP, if it's moving that slowly and has no propulsion, can we just harpoon it and drag it down? I don't know the logistics of harpooning a balloon. I don't understand why we can't send up a tactical balloon of our own to balloon it. Shouldn't we have mastered balloon warfare at this point? I mean, balloon to balloon warfare. I just want like a balloon version of the old Ironsides from the Civil War, right? Where they just like do a full broadside cannon fire and just knock that sucker out of the sky. Where are our steampunk experts? There's got to be somebody out there right now who knows how to construct a combat dirigible. There's no excuse for it otherwise. There are too many nerds. There are too many steampunk clockwork nerds out there not to already know exactly what to do in building a combat balloon. American ingenuity hasn't completely fallen off the face of the earth, right? Nerds will save the world. Where's my Ironsides balloon? Anyway, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, completely useless. I don't know. I mean, most press secretaries are useless. It's not just her. I mean, go back in time in the last 15 years in particular. I can't think of a press secretary that anybody has liked on either side of the aisle, or you ever want to trust whoever feels like they're giving you the full story, because it's not their job to give the full story. She's particularly bad at trying to massage her responses to very difficult questions. But I don't really pay attention to press secretaries all that much, unless they're the only source of information. Derek LaRue. Thank you so much, Derek LaRue. Appreciate that very much. Derek LaRue, I mean, your generosity, I never know what to say other than thank you. I really appreciate it. Same goes for everybody who donates. Oh, I don't even have the, I should have these on a text document somewhere I can just pull up, but I don't. The fundraiser links. I always want to at least have something up there. Anyway, sorry, my 3 a.m. or now 3:31 a.m. brain is a little off. So thank you, Derek. Appreciate it very much. And some more good mornings. Good morning, Peter. You ridiculous lunatic. Jen T. Maxey. I have to go now. Dang it. Later, Scribe. At least it isn't cold today. 2 days ago, it was minus 18, which is about 2 for your neck of the woods. Yeah, Script Doctor was saying that same thing, I think, yesterday. It was minus 18 because y'all are Canucks. Y'all are maple drinkers. And it's really, really cold up there. It was relatively cold over here the other day. Pretty chilly, but then we're still technically in winter, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised by that. Let's see. Kyler, what's her name? The blonde that Trump had for a while was fun to watch. Was that Kaylee McEnany? Was that her? Maybe. Supa Koopa Gaming, good morning. Green Badger Outdoors, good morning. And if I missed any other good mornings, apologies for that. Anyway, powered by a solar array. Ryder Strong. Ryder affirmed on Friday that the Defense Department knows the surveillance balloon floating over the northern U.S. is Chinese and said that it, quote, has the ability to maneuver. Okay. Quote, the balloon is maneuverable. Clearly, it's violated U.S. airspace. And we've communicated that fact to the People's Republic of China. He did not indicate any details on how it can be maneuvered. I'm guessing, vanes and jets and things. Propellers and the like. I believe we've had some idea of balloon maneuverability technology at this point in history. If the Goodyear blimp is any indication. So, how is it maneuvering? Well, it's obviously an anti-gravity machine. No, it's just propellers. Probably propellers. Sources familiar with the matter previously told CNN that the balloon's movement relies primarily on the jet stream. Ryder added on Friday that the balloon, quote, has changed its course, which is, again, why we're monitoring it. I feel like William Shatner is speaking these lines for some reason. China can control the surveillance balloon to an extent, for example, by turning on and off the surveillance gear inside of it. What? Turning on and off the surveillance gear inside of it. So by turning on the radio, it controls the movement of the balloon? Okay. Pentagon officials said they did not believe the balloon had surveillance or intelligence gathering capabilities above and beyond Chinese spy satellites in low Earth orbit. But unlike satellites that pass rapidly over a location every 90 minutes, a spy balloon can loiter over a spot and gather more of a pattern of life for a particular site, the officials said. Why make the balloon white? Why? I mean, white? I guess it can hide in the clouds, but you obviously can't guarantee you're going to have cloud cover, so a big white spot on an otherwise blue sky. Should it be like reflective or something? Or, you could break up the outline a little bit. It's just a big white balloon on a blue sky. I don't quite get that. Maybe there's some other explanation for that. In the past, the U.S. has simply allowed balloons like this to waft away without taking any action or publicizing their presence over the U.S., the sources said. It is also not the first time a surveillance balloon has appeared over the United States. So the only significance to it now is because we know it comes from China and we were just about to visit China? The U.S. official said there were similar incidents with suspected Chinese surveillance balloons over Hawaii and Guam in recent years. On Thursday, a senior defense official said, quote, instances of this activity have been observed over the past several years, including prior to this administration. Yes, but over the continental United States, I guess is my question. Because I don't know. Or if I heard of such a story, I don't recall. But okay. There you go. There's our Chinese surveillance balloon crisis. Balloon crisis 2023. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Let's see. Derek LaRue, based on this one being Chinese, can we assume those other UFO sightings we've seen recently are also Chinese? Possibly. I mean, I'm curious as to how they knew it was a Chinese balloon right off the bat. I mean, did China... maybe I missed the chain of events or something. Like, a balloon appears in the sky. Well, we know it's Chinese. Okay. Let's see. Kyler, fading out. A 10-hour shift that started yesterday really wiped me out. Catch you later. Get some sleep, dude. God knows I want some, but, here I am. Rock me like a hurricane. Let's see. I don't think there are many clouds at 50,000 feet. Yeah, I just wonder about these things. Like, if this was meant to be a spy balloon, wouldn't a transparent balloon be a better idea? You would think like a Mylar thing or something. I mean, maybe there's some considerations for strength or tensile strength or survivability or something based on the materials used in the balloon. I don't know. Some Namyol Nation, good morning. Let's see. Any other amazing stories going on right now? I don't know that I'm going to be streaming much longer, guys. I have a whole... By the way, just to give a plug, at 3 o'clock p.m., not a.m., Pacific time, today, 6 p.m. Eastern time, the coast at which the balloon is currently heading, I'll be doing an interview with Dave's Lemonade. It's my second edition of Living on Borrowed Crime. I had hoped to make that a more frequent series, Living on Borrowed Crime, but here's the problem. Time zones and people's schedules. When you're trying to coordinate with 2 or 3 at whatever kind of time people who are doing YouTube creation and everything and research and editing and all that as their job, more or less. Plus, if half of them are in New Zealand and the other half are on the East Coast or something, it becomes very complicated. In this instance, Dave felt more comfortable doing a one-on-one chat than a group session. So that kind of worked out in the sense I only had to sort of align myself with a single time zone. But that's what's kind of delayed doing this more often since the first time. I wanted to do it like maybe once a month, try to get a regular rotating cast of characters, just getting together and chatting up recent cases or crimes they were working on or things like that. But yeah, so it's a work in progress. But fortunately, I'm doing this all by myself, so I don't have anybody to report to or some kind of schedule to stick to. So catch as catch can until I can set up something more regular. So that's the intention. But anyway, I am excited because I've been wanting to talk to Dave. I proposed interviewing Dave like a year and a half ago or something, like right after his channel really started picking up steam, like after the first couple of posts of his, and he's just been such a busy guy. And then we were going to do it a few months ago, but then he had like the most ridiculous chain of bad luck in his personal life with different things going on in rapid succession, and it just didn't make any sense. But now, thankfully, yay, today it's happening. So looking forward to that. I hope you guys will be there for that as well. Because if you're willing to show up to a 3 a.m. ramble session, hopefully something more structured and informative will get your attention as well. Let's see. What's this story? Okay, let's get a goofy story here. Why not? I like a goofy story. Don't you like a goofy story? She used hidden cameras to help students cheat on exams. Now she's wanted by Interpol. That is a very mannish-looking woman. Okay. Think international manhunt, and the image that likely springs to mind is that of a hardened criminal, like a murderer, bank robber, or billion-dollar fraudster, not the middle-aged boss of a high school tuition center. But that's who's at the center of a red notice issued this week by the International Criminal Police Organization, or Interpol, which facilitates police cooperation between 194 countries. Excuse me. Po Wan Ni, 57, is thought to have fled Singapore after masterminding an elaborate cheating scam during the Southeast Asian country's annual GCEO level examinations, which students take during their final year of high school. Poe failed to surrender to failed to surrender to police after a court sentenced her to 4 years in prison for running the scam, in which she and 3 of her tutors fed answers to students using a system of body cams, earphones, and Bluetooth devices. Private tuition centers are big business in the wealthy city-state, where the pressure for students to perform well can be overwhelming, and it is not unusual. It's not unusual for monthly fees. It's not unusual for monthly fees at established private tuition centers to cost up to 2,000 Singapore dollars, or 1,500 US. According to early court documents, Po, 57, and her 3 accomplices, Dipsy and Lala, Tinky Winky, her niece, Fiona Po Min, ex-girlfriend Tan Ya Yan, and a Chinese national named Feng Ruen, and I'm sure I'm butchering those names, were each paid 8,000 Singapore dollars, or $6,100, by a man from China to help 6 students aged between 17 and 20, also from China, pass the GCE exams in 2016 so they could enter local colleges. The payment would have been fully refunded if the students did not pass the exams. Yes, we will successfully help you cheat on your exams or your money back. We're honest cheaters. Like, it's sort of like, trying to get into a relationship with someone who's currently in a relationship with somebody else, right? It's like, you can trust this person. Why? Yeah, they're willing to lie, obfuscate, go behind the back of someone they're with and who trusts them, and yeah. Anyway, but yeah, no, I'm going to pay you to help me cheat. I'm sure you're dealing with me fairly. Under Poe's instructions, the 6 students wore skin-colored earphones and taped mobile phones and Bluetooth devices to their bodies so they could be fed answers by Tan, who posed as a private student sitting the same test. What? Sitting the same test papers. What? Fed answers by Tan, who posed as a private student sitting the same test papers. Maybe submitting? Is that what you meant, CNN? Submitting? Okay. With the help of a hidden camera phone taped to her chest, Tan live streamed the questions to Poe and the 2 other tutors back at the tuition center, who then worked out the answers and fed them to students. This is a sophisticated operation. They were rumbled. Wait, what? They were rumbled? They were rumbled when an exam invigilator. Is that a word? Invigilator? Exam okay, I take a certain level of pride in my vocabulary, and even if I don't use certain words, having at least an awareness of many words. But okay, invigilator, it's a word. Okay, a person whose job is to watch people taking an exam in order to check that they did not cheat. Oh, okay, well, I learned something new. I thought that was a misspelling of investigator, but no, there's an actual word for someone who specifically oversees exams. I did not know that. And knowing is a continually disappointing series of events. But anyway, Invigilator heard unusual noises coming from one of the students who came clean when questioned. Okay. After a year-long trial that ended in 2020, Poe was convicted on 27 counts of cheating and sentenced to 4 years jail. Her red notice on Interpol included a mugshot and listed her charges of abetment to commit cheating. Singapore police, who requested the notice from Interpol, said Poe had been due to begin her jail term in September, but failed to surrender herself. Her 3 accomplices are all currently serving their respective prison terms. Poe was convicted for a series of cheating offenses, having conspired with students to cheat in the 2016. Okay. According to Interpol, global law enforcement units are requested to locate and arrest people under red notices, pending extradition, surrender, or other legal actions. The case has put the spotlight on a school system that is ranked among the world's best and is known for its competitiveness. Singapore's government has implemented a raft of reforms in recent years aimed at easing the mental burden on students who can face immense pressure to achieve good grades. Well, they should work for good grades. Okay. The GCEO level exams can be particularly stressful, a particularly stressful time as they define a student's entire high school performance and determine which local college or vocational institute they can go to. The exams, known in full as General Certificate of Education Ordinary Level, are national tests in mathematics, sciences, languages, and humanities. They are conducted jointly by the Cambridge Assessment International Examination, CAIE, and Singapore Ministry of Education. They are not the same as the annual British GCSE exams. GCE exams are usually taken by students age 16 and 17 and are also open to private candidates. Every year, around 30,000 students sit the exams, according to MOE estimates. Well, there you go. 4 years for cheating, but she's on the run. She's on the run. Poe is on the run. So if you see this woman, she's a cheater. Cheater, grade repeater. There you go. Let's see. Original swim for someone with an English degree. Scribbles has problems with British English. We fought a whole war to get away from those limeys. So if I have a certain level of unfamiliarity with their silly language, then so be it. I take it as a point of pride. I'm not talking like some Cockney limey. That's right. I called you a limey. Irate Alex. You're a limey. Does that mean, is anybody from Britain, do they count as a limey? Yeah, you ever seen that movie, The Limey? It's a great movie, by the way. And just being serious for a second. Terrence Stamp and oh God, what's his name? Was it Peter Fonda? I think it's Peter Fonda. Great little movie. Steven Soderbergh directed it, and I don't know if he wrote it. Great little crime flick. If you haven't seen it, it's called The Limey. It's told in a sort of non-linear way. It feels very quasi-Tarantino-ish, but it's excellent. So if you haven't seen it, see it. Drunkle Limes. Yeah, drunk. I think Drunk will probably count as a limey. I don't know. Maybe. Super Koopa, I'm curious about your thoughts on digital versus physical media. It feels like we are losing so much physical media lately. I've always had much more, and I think a lot of people do, in particular with books. Okay. I, for lack of a better phrase, am a collector of both comic books, let's say in particular, and also role-playing game books and supplements. And I can't stand trying to enjoy or read either a comic book as much, and certainly not a role-playing book as much, on a PDF as I do like sitting down, opening the thing, reading through it, flipping through pages. There's just something much more desirable to me about that tactile interaction with that kind of stuff. Actually having the thing. Versus some digital reproduction. I mean, sometimes it doesn't matter. You don't have any other options. But that's the thing, not having any other options. These streaming services for movies and such, it's not like being able to go to a video store. I mean, it is in a way, but it's also not, because if they decide to take a movie off the table, it's gone forever. You can't get it back. You can't ask them to bring it back. They'll be like, no. Or they lose their license or something, and it's just gone. Maybe through no fault of their own, maybe through, contractual things or something, whatever. So yeah, if there's a movie you like, get a copy of it physically, just as an example. Here's the thing, and this maybe the psychology is common. I don't know. You tell me. If I actually have immediate access to something like a movie I love, I'm probably not inclined to watch it all that often, right? Because I know I've got it. This was the video store mentality that I grew up with, right? When I was in the mood to see a particular kind of movie or whatever, you go to the video store. Oh, there it is. You rent it, you bring it home, you watch it, you're done with it, you take it back, and you have that sort of like slightly delayed gratification of it. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. So you yearn for something that you like. You can see it again, rent Reservoir Dogs 3 weeks in a row or something. If you've got it right there in the living room all the time, it's right there. I just saw it. I can see it anytime, whatever. You don't necessarily watch it. But if you do want to watch it, at least you have it there. With streaming stuff, there's no guarantee. Netflix could lose the license to an entire library of media tomorrow, and it'd be gone. And you'd have to either wait until some studio makes their own streaming service, or you can catch it somewhere else, or you have to pay some other guy for it, or you have to get it from Prime TV. So, yeah, physical media, if you can, is the short version. Don't rely on a PDF. Don't rely on a streaming service. If you can get a physical copy of something that you like, get a physical copy. But the other thing, of course, is like, I don't have the money or the capacity to have a copy of every piece of physical media. I might just one day decide, gosh, there was this documentary I saw like 5 years ago on the Enron crash, and boy, oh boy, I'd love to watch that. Where can I watch that? Oh, it's nowhere. I can't watch it anywhere. Shucks. Well, I guess I'll just survive without it. That kind of thing. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if I answered your question, but we are losing physical media because it's not cost effective to create physical media. I mean, who buys video games anymore, right? And actually go out and get the box or anything. You're probably just buying an empty box with like a code in it or something. And there are ups and downs to that. There are benefits and detractions from that. So, yeah, there's still a market for physical media, and if you can, like I say, if you can do you get the 4K Blu-ray of Conan the Barbarian, just get it and be done with it. Like, I fell into the same trap as so many other Star Wars freaks. I got every new edition of Star Wars. I've got like 3 or 4 different copies of the Star Wars trilogy on my shelves. I've got the special edition VHS widescreen collection of the original trilogy. I've got the DVD release they put out. I hate that DVD release because Darth Vader's lightsaber is pink and Luke's lightsaber is green in A New Hope. And it's like, what the hell were you guys thinking? But I have them. I bought them anyway. I don't know why. It's like I just reflexively, I have to have a good copy of the Star Wars trilogy on me at all times. It's kind of like having Catcher in the Rye. If I see Catcher in the Rye, I have to buy a copy. It's like something like that. If you know what reference that's from, good for you. You're a nerd. Let's see. Agreed. Thanks, Scribelight. I'm trying to get the conversation about physical music. I mean, you should go check out Tom Connors. And I want to get his name right here. Sorry, one second. Somebody on Fanzine. I think Fanzine on YouTube. There's a whole physical media subculture thing. Maybe you already know about these guys, but Tom Connors does a physical media show, I think once a week or something, with a couple other guys who are into physical media. and are, big proponents of this. So, and then that's Midnight's Edge. Look up Midnight's Edge, Tom Connors, and like I think it's the Physical Media Show or something like that. Sorry, guys, my brain's a little off right now, but yeah, if you're into physical media and finding out when like new movies are coming out or the quality, like these guys will take on, the new releases of things in 4K or Dolby 3.5 surround and review, the quality of it and everything, especially for classic movies. Man, I mean, if anything's going by the wayside, that really like the Criterion Collection, sometimes their editions aren't that great, but you get those old classics like The Third Man, or was the Clock, I think. All these old like noir films. Oh, definitely get those. Or Touch of Evil, like the corrected version of Touch of Evil going along with Orson Welles' liner notes or whatever. Yeah, get those. Anyway, sorry guys, I got no, I'm not apologizing to the guy. Good question. It's something that I think about a little bit. But my brain has gone completely sideways now. I'm not talking about Chinese balloons, not talking about complicated cheating organizations. So I'm going to sign off because I got nothing else to say, and I just needed something to do to wake my mind up until I get to my usual time of day where I'm usually awake. Let's see. Oh, wait. Bridget has something to say. The best way to support artists is through physical media and merchandise. I take on the try before you buy approach. Watch/read digitally, then add it to my collection. That is also a good idea. That's also a good idea. Rent to own, as it were, in the olden days. But anyway, everybody, again, 3 p.m. Pacific time today, Saturday, February 4th, I'll be interviewing Dave's Lemonade, true crime content creator, on my second episode of Living on Borrowed Crime. Really looking forward to that, so keep an eye out for that. And as far as the Sunday stream is concerned, I think I'm still going to do a Sunday stream. I might decide to take the day off. I will let you guys know if you want to know on my Twitters, at scribe_light, one way or the other, before tomorrow, obviously, or maybe tomorrow morning if I suddenly forget to do that. Either way, everyone, thank you so much for coming out for this I was awake and had nothing better to do with my brain stream. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Saturday. Either way, rest of the weekend as well. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I'll back up because I forgot to do the thing I always do and I mean to do. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. As always, I really do appreciate it. And with that, I will say adieu.